The Democratic Alliance has rejected Higher Education and Training Minister Buti Manamela's appointment of Oupa Nkoane, Lehlohonolo Masoga, as well as Zukile Mvalo as Construction SETA, Services SETA and Local Government SETA administrators. It says their appointees are unfit, implicated in corruption, mismanagement, fraud in previous government jobs, or have proved themselves useless in the SETA space already. The Democratic Alliance has written an urgent letter to Minister Manamela to demand his reconsiderations of these appointments and withdrawals of his announcement. Democratic Alliance spokesperson and member of the Higher Education Portfolio Committee, Karabo Khakhau, now joins us. Karabo, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Last night, you were shared with my colleagues on the full view as to why the Democratic Alliance rejects the appointment of these administrators in service SETA jobs. But you have since come out following a news report, a news article where Oupa Nkoane allegedly claims that he had found out only about his appointment in the media after the fact and not before the fact. You claim that that means there are procedural irregularities. Why is that the case?
Good evening, Oliver. Good evening, viewers. Thank you so much for having me. So in order for you to gazette any appointment of anybody, there has to obviously be an appointment letter. That appointment letter needs to follow an acceptance, and therefore there is consent of an appointment. So if indeed what Oupa Nkoane claims is true, then we do potentially have a case of an irregularity of appointment, but also potentially maladministration. And this is why this morning I've written to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, asking that to join the Minister and the National Skills Authority, Nkoane must also come to Parliament to explain this so that we're able to test this. You would know that the invitation, but as per the DA's request, is not just of him alone, but it joins the National Skills Authority and Buti Manamela. Now, why the National Skills Authority? The Section 15 of the Skills Development Act 97 of 1998 makes it clear that in order for the minister to make any such appointments, he needs to do so in consultation with the NSA. So it is only upon the NSA's thumbs up that he's able to make the appointment. So we want him both and the National Skills Authority to come explain how do they justify the appointments of Oupa Nkoane, Lehlohonolo Masoga, as well as Zukile Mvalo, for reasons that I've already outlined last night on the show, to say we cannot have people who are implicated in forensic reports that point directly to a direct involvement in the management of public funds.
Yeah, so your line's just cutting there, and I hope it will stay stable with us. I'll get to your impugning of their fitness to hold office. I just want us to, for a moment, double-click in on the claim around the procedural soundness and regularity thereof. I spoke to Matsepo Sidat, the spokesperson of the Minister of Higher Education. They had declined to come onto the program, but she did indicate to me on record that it's not true that the procedural, at least what is procedurally necessary, is for an appointment letter to be signed before the fact of gazetting. That gazetting can take place and that appointment letter can be signed after the fact. She says procedurally that is sound for various reasons. One such reason she cited to me and my team was that because gazetting, because appointment letter requires for security clearance to take place, which might take inordinately long, gazetting doesn't rest upon that, one. And secondly, and importantly here, she had said that, and I want you to respond to this as well, that for any candidate to effectively even be considered for the job, they need to have submitted an application and an interest to take up the job. And therefore, their appointment, however announced, doesn't make the procedure unsound. What's your response to those two claims?
That doesn't make sense in any way. It sounds like a political spin, and as a political spokesperson, I would hear it I would know it when I hear it. So the bottom line here is this. When you make a public announcement that anybody is serving in a role, they need to be aware that that's the role. Don't wake up and decide that you're appointing a person saying that they're responsible for something that they do not know, particularly when this appointment is not an extension of roles that they already occupy within the government system. That is number one. Number two, labor laws dictate very clearly to prove this point, right? And there are multiple case studies, I can't think of one off the top of my head right now, that speak to the regularity of appointments thereof. When you make as a gazette as a minister You are saying to the Republic of South Africa that I've made this decision and this is the person, and therefore this person is aware. For any person to say that they do not know of such an appointment points to there being an inconsistency in truth with Manamela's predecessor, Nobuhle Nkabane. So what we are saying here is, because it's not for us to sangomize who's telling the truth here between Manamela and Nkoane, us is to engage both of them in Parliament for us to get an understanding of whether, if there was a conversation, was it an offline conversation, is it true or not? Because it's also, it's unfair as far as legal practice is concerned, when Oliver, for you to be appointed to a role and for you to say you don't know about it. So that's what we want to do.
Karabo, the minister can only but account to Parliament on the appointment and come to Parliament, to the Portfolio Committee, and justify his reasons. Therefore, whether or not you accept the reasons of the minister is entirely a different conversation. However, the Portfolio Committee doesn't have the statutory powers to overturn the decision of the minister. That would either need to be done by a court, or the minister would, at his own accord or volition, decide to reverse his decision, albeit that too has other statutory implications in and of itself. Will the Democratic Alliance, beyond just writing to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee chairperson to summon the minister, also consider legal action, given that this decision is a public administrative decision that can only be overturned by a court of law?
You are correct that is true. But that is why we have written to the minister to employ him politically to make a consideration. While it is not the prerogative of Parliament to make appointments, but that of the executive arm of state, it is the legislative arm of state's responsibility to conduct oversight on the work of the executive arm of state, and if deemed necessary, make requests on those changes. And in this case, there's a clear necessity to overturn that decision. And that's why I, on behalf of the DA, have written to the minister to ask that he reconsiders this appointment, well within my jurisdiction as a member of Parliament. When ministers appear before Parliament on any topic, the members of that portfolio committee make recommendations to the executive that in good faith we expect the executive to hear if there's logic there. There's more than enough logic to substantiate why people were implicated in forensic reports that detail acts of fraud, acts of corruption, acts of the mismanagement of public funds are not the type of people that should be.
Just lastly on that, Karabo, and I'm glad you raised that point again, because I do hope you can give me an answer in 30 seconds here. We're quite literally out of time. Those are merely but allegations. None of the people you are citing here have been found to be guilty of anything that you've been cited. They have been alleged to have been guilty of that, but not anywhere is there a record, a criminal record, in any court of the allegations.
Your argument might as well say nothing that the Auditor General says is a legal finding on any financial book of any government. It holds no water, Oliver. Forensic reports are a detailed background that give us grounds upon which to pursue criminality if that's the case. Both forensic reports are on the desk of the provincial political appointees of the respective provinces, being Limpopo, in the case of Limpopo's economic development, and in the case of Gauteng for Nkoane being the COCTA ministry. So they're not being a legal action as far as criminal action is concerned, is pretty much testament again of how the ANC sweeps matters under the carpet instead of rooting out corruption and cadres who are compromises within the system. That shouldn't be the conversation right now. What should be the conversation right now is how do we ensure that we safeguard the integrity of CETAs? How do we detox them from being plagued by maladministration, by corruption, by fraud, and cadres who've quite frankly proven themselves in other cases to be useless for the people of this country.
Karabo Khakhau, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Higher Education Portfolio Committee member of the Democratic Alliance, Karabo Khakhau.